Hello, everyone. Hello, writers, readers, sprinters, and Jimmy,
And yappers.
and yappas. No, always yapping on the slog. Only
There's no
yapping on the
yapping on
slog.
the slog. There's no
Only
yapping
yapping
on the
on the slog.
sprint.
Coppers.
I just got a notification that you went live.
Oh, that's nice. Nice to know that you hit that bell notification,
Well, I never want to miss any updates or posts.
as you shouldn't, because this is a very important channel. As you can see, I am To Be a Nutty award-winning author Anya Dillon, and you don't want to miss a word out of that mouth.
I feel like I got one-upped by not giving you a physical statue.
You did.
Yeah, I messed up.
It's so cool. It's like really nice too. It's all heavy. I'd grab it, but it's
It looks
downstairs.
really cool.
It's really nice. Yeah. Um.
I should really
Yo
do
yo
something
yo,
like
Kevin
that next
Jenkins.
year.
At least one person is. Yes. Wait, I had to release a
Kevin
book and it has to
ready?
be good, and then you can do it.
Well, I
It says
mean,
yo yo
just
yo,
in
and I'm just
general,
happy.
right?
Yeah. At least one person is here to see Jimmy in the robe. That's what the people are tuning in for. Jimmy in the boomer robe.
Yes. Hopped up on Advil extra strength because my back feels like I got, ran through by a rhinoceros. Pretty nice.
You
Absolutely
wanna
brutal.
tell the crowd what happened? How you hurt yourself?
I mean, I just worked out in the morning, came home and picked up a golf club. My back just absolutely sparked. And then it felt like, an SUV chair when you pull the latch and it fucking like folds forward really fast. That happened to me with no extra forces. Like my spine, like I just had to go into the fetal position. And it took me like 30 minutes to get from, I was like stuck on my ottoman and I couldn't move and I couldn't breathe really. So then I had to like scoot myself. And then my cats are like, oh, dad's on the ground. So they're like, I'm like, get the fuck away. I'm like, I need to lay down. So I eventually get to the floor and then it took like an hour. And then Kelsey came home from work because I'm like, I think I blew my back out.
Something
But
blew your
it is
back out.
marginally, yeah, it's definitely better, but it's still like not good at all. But at least I can move, So a tragic. It was in fact not a
You
thing.
said that right as you said blew your back out. It was amazing. The timing was impeccable.
Yeah.
You keep
Hey,
saying
listen,
you said the car thing. Like, did you got Anton Yelchin? You know about that guy?
no.
Yeah, he's an actor, I think, and he died when his like car seat like folded in on him and trapped him there. It's crazy.
Dude, that's nightmare fuel. Holy cow.
Yes.
That's dark. Damn. Oh,
That's
Ryan
dark.
agrees. I'm glad you agree, Ryan. Green guy in green room. Okay. Okay.
Well, I hope
Very
you feel better
interesting.
soon. And
Yeah, me too.
you think it's going to affect your writing? Will you have extra pain to inject into the dark and disturbing things that you like to write to traumatize your classmates?
No, I don't think so, but I do find it funny that like in my class, for those who don't know, I don't know if I talked about this last week, but there's a lot of like elderly folks that I think like kind of want to write something in their free time or whatever, and all of them are like, we're going to be writing children's stories, which is admirable. That's cool. But I wrote a story where a child dies. So I feel as if it's not going to go over well on Saturday when we do like feedback loop time. But here's a crazy thing. Listen to this. So there's 14 people in class, 9 submitted out of the 14, and only 6 of the 9 are finished. Isn't that crazy?
What are they doing?
Less
It's
than
only 6
half.
pages.
Less than half finished. I think what it is though is like the idea of writing or being an author, whatever, is like very sexy. Like there's an appeal to that of like, oh, I want to like be profound with my words. But the application of writing is almost the opposite of sexy. It's torture and it sucks. Like it's not, there's nothing, I don't know. I don't get that feeling. You know what I mean? Like when you think about what being an author would be like or writing would feel like, it's not that.
I mean, what's not sexy about wearing a boomer robe with massive back pain, writing about killing kids. Pretty hot.
Well said. Well said.
It is hard to write when you're addicted to YouTube. So that's why we're just writing on YouTube because I can't seem to do it any other way. I've written approximately 1,000 words since the last stream that we did. So the chapter that I was working on last stream, I'm still working on it.
That's not bad though. 1,000 words a week is 52,000 words in a year. That's pretty good.
Oh, that would mean this book is going to take an additional 3 years to write. I can't do that. I have a deadline, a hard deadline, being done with this book March 31st, which is horrible because I have a 3-week vacation in March.
Yeah, maybe bump that back just a month.
Just like touring wedding venues in Hawaii and like furiously writing on my free write in every spare moment. No.
Do you like writing in public?
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's kind of funny because I usually write on my free write in public, which is that like tiny little like e-ink keyboard device. And I don't think I've ever written in public without at least 2 people being like, "Oh my God, what is that?" And then having like a whole conversation about what is that? Because people are always so interested in this like teeny little laptop that I'm typing away on. And then that eventually turns into like, "Oh, what are you writing?" So what I need to do is write in public more often and have like business cards with QR code to like Severed Echoes. And my author was,
that actually is a good idea.
Are you interested? Because usually when I'm telling people about what I write, and I don't know how much of it is just like polite conversation and small talk, they're like, "Oh, that sounds super interesting. Like, oh, I'd love to read that." And then you never see them again. So what you should do is, well, you can find out when it's done by signing up to my newsletter. But that's like,
that is a very, very strong idea. And I personally would love to write in public because I wonder, I have never done it. So I'm just curious if maybe it'll help me like appeal to my senses because everything here is so like distilled for me because I'm here all the time. So I don't pick up on sounds and smells or unless if it's out of the place, right? Which things usually aren't. So I think like maybe being in public and watching people, right? Like watching someone interact, like that might actually help in the writing process.
I feel like I used to get a lot less distracted because it's like there's people around you so they can see that you're supposed to be writing, but instead you're scrolling. And if you want to be like the sexy writer, you need to be writing and like being viewed writing. And so it's very, very cool and mysterious and sexy to be like, I used to write all the time at this book bar in Phoenix. It's like a bookstore with a cafe and bar attached. And I would go and I would get my beer and I would get my latte and I would get my big pretzel and I would sit there and just type. And it was sexy. It's like, it's cool. And then because people are always like, "Ooh," like, it's all in their heads. Like, what is she writing? What is she writing about? Could be anything.
She's hammering away at those keys. What is Maestro up to?
What is that thing? Yeah. So it's it's cool. And so and you're not at home, so you're not distracted by like the fridge and the cat and the internet and all those things. So yeah, highly recommend it. I love writing in public. I should do it more often. There's a coffee shop like walking distance from my place here. I just don't ever do it, but I should.
Yeah, I think it'd be good for me because like I don't leave the house enough because working from home and everything. So I feel like it would actually probably be healthy for me to find a secondary space to write in, even if it's the library or something. Like I think that would probably be advantageous. I might try that. After it gets a little less shitty out. It's just really shitty right now, and I don't want to go outside. But I might give it a go. I might try being a sexy writer out in public, in my robe. Actually,
it helps. It puts you in that like mindset of I am a sexy writer. And and I think there's a lot to be said about like the ritual surrounding like your process. Like
Erickson's big on that. Someone, I think it was Lucas, said that Erickson wrote Malazan in public. Yeah, he had a very specific place he went, and he said when I talked to him, I don't know if he ever wrote in his house. I think most of it was public. So it's pretty impressive.
Easy to not write in your house because similar to you, I just have like a massive amount of books just crying to be read behind me at all times. And reading's just fun and writing's hard.
Reading is a lot of fun. And I still like reading more than writing. So for me, sometimes I'll be writing, I'll be like, man, this is ass. And I'll be like, but I could just go read this book I really want to read, and it does happen. I'm still very much in the inspiration mood though that I talked about last week, where I'm really
Good.
looking at writing different, and it's actually a
Mhm.
lot of fun to look at books. I'm reading multiple books right now. Some are way more popular than others, so it's just interesting to
Mhm.
see like why does this book sell and this one didn't sell. It's a great book, but it didn't sell as well. Like, what is it? Why is that? What's important to me? I can already tell you I don't care about selling anything. I don't think at this point, because I don't think I'm gonna ever be able to sell anything. But it's cool to see like people flex different muscles, I guess, in their books and have different goals they want to accomplish, I guess.
Mhm. What are you I know you're reading Planetfall by Emma Newman right now. Did you finish that yet?
Yeah.
Cool.
I know I haven't. I'm only about 100 pages in, but I really
Okay.
like it so far. I'll tell you, I really don't like present tense stories very much. It's always I've said this forever, but
Mhm.
I'm starting to understand the appeal a little bit. And
Mhm.
lately, I feel like a lot of the stories I'm reading are in present tense. Like, I think it's kind of popular right now, maybe. Now, I'm not saying Emma Newman just released this book, but quite a few popular books are written in present tense. A lot of romanticy is written in present tense too. So I think I'm a little less
Mhm.
um, against the idea, and it almost makes me want to try a present tense book.
Yeah, I think you should. I have some present tense. I don't want to give stuff away because Severed Echoes plays with some perspectives a little bit, and I find present tense maybe not the most engaging to read. I find it by far the easiest to write. Like maybe, and
Really?
maybe that's just because it's so like I don't have to pay attention to tenses as much because it's like this is happening right now. I am doing this. This is happening, and it's so
Yeah.
much less like what is that like that did like it just feels like grammatically a lot smoother and easier for me to write. And I think it has
Yeah.
that like that immediacy, that like urgency, and it's I can just like get right into it, and it's just flows really easily. But I
Yeah.
agree.
One
I
thing
don't
I've
think it's
actually
the most engaging to read.
Yeah, I think it takes a pretty compelling author for me to really love the present tense. But like for instance, like the Emma Newman stuff is really working for me right now. But
Mm.
I've also heard someone say that going to present tense whenever you're doing something more mundane in your work is actually better because it gives it immediacy, even if the story is slow. And I thought that was kind of interesting. I also do think that there's something about past tense that feels untrue at times. For instance, Harry Dresden in the Dresden Files is first person past tense, but
Mhm.
you're always wondering like, how is he telling me the story from the past tense, right? Like, because and not every story, like they're almost like you're kind of just like willing to accept that as a reader, right? That like there
Mhm.
is no reasonable way he's narrating. Now, maybe there is at the end of the series and all this stuff happens. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
really care.
Like why is he
Plenty,
telling me this kind of thing? How is he
yeah,
telling me this? Yeah.
there are plenty of stories that don't do that and sell well and are great stories for it, but I
Mhm.
always feel a little bit like I'm getting like I have to like suspend my disbelief a little bit. Whereas someone like I would assume Ada Palmer series or Book of the New whatever is like a retelling of a story, right? It's like you feel like there's actual a reason the narrator is narrating this to you. Black Leopard, Red Wolf, Assassin's Apprentice, those type of things.
I'm gonna need you to go read some Ada Palmer, please.
I'm
Please.
definitely going
It's
to.
so good. I think you would really like especially as like being an engaged reader and reading really
Mhm.
thoughtfully and purposely and seeing how, like what is she doing? How did she do this? You would get so much out of that series because it's just there's so much in it in the way it's told and the references it makes. It's very like Book of the New Sun, but good.
Yeah. I mean, I totally feel like Ada Palmer is gonna be someone that I enjoy reading. Like, I just have a desire to check out her work. And also, Hayward, I agree. I mean, I get this, I always call it an itch, but I get this inch of let me do this thing. I've always been a doer. I've always wanted to do. I struggle with doing both, like reading and writing. Like, I feel like I gotta do, like, one to the maximum, right? But what I would say is just create something, like whether it's writing, whatever, like just do it. And then you can throw it in the trash if you want, but it's at least expelling that like energy out, um,
Yeah.
in a constructive way.
I think humans are like supposed to use their hands to make stuff. I feel like there's
Oh yeah.
some
Yeah.
evolutionary like psychiatric need to like create things. not consume things. Like no matter what it is. Like I really like cooking. That's like a way that I like cooking and typing. Like I like intricate little hand things. Like, if that makes sense. So typing is like a really good meditative outlet and you get to create something at the same time. So yeah, I totally agree. I think creating something in any capacity is very healing. If it's even if it sucks, it's good. Like you don't have to be amazing at it. Like I think especially in a capitalistic society where everyone has to monetize their hobbies, there's such a push to like be the best and do the best and buy the best equipment and be the best and market yourself. But like there's no rule that says you have to be good at your hobbies. You could just have it because it's fun and you can suck at it. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Not that you would
absolutely.
suck at it, anybody like listening, but like it's okay to be bad at stuff and just have a good time.
The stakes are really low.
Mhm.
The stakes are super
Very
low, and
well.
that's okay.
Um, I do agree though about like reading does feel like a passive activity sometimes. I'm trying to be a lot more intentional with what I choose to read and
Mhm.
how I read it this year. I've always been like a 4 book at a time kind of person and just like jumping around, and I'm not doing that this year. I've read 1 book at a time and then I finish it and I set aside and I read the next book that I've planned to read. Like I've always been a mood reader. I've always been a DNFer. I don't want to do that anymore. And so I'm like
Mm.
trying to plan it very specifically. And not only have I gotten way more reading done this year already, I've read way more diversely, which I really like.
It's really cool.
And I've experienced a lot of things I never would have picked up before. Yeah, it's working pretty well for me. I'm excited for next month. March is International Women's Month, and I'm going to be reading all translated female authors.
Very cool.
Yeah, got a list like, and I've got like 9 different books in all different languages that they've been translated from. So I'm very excited about that. And Black History Month reading is going awesome. I'm just loving the stuff I'm reading this month, and I'm starting
So you're
Erasure today, I think.
oh god, I hope you like it. I really do. If you don't like certain sections, totally valid though. Um, I am gonna be reading. I'm trying to find the name of it. If I have to add, oh my god, I don't know what I called it, and I thought I ordered it, and I think I didn't order it. I'm
Oh
supposed to
no.
read this book with Joanna. Hold on, I have to find it. Like I have to find it because if I've asked her like 3 times, I'm like, what are we reading again this month? But it's a translated female work. Let me
Mhm.
scroll up in our conversation here because
Alan heard the conversation and he went in and deleted it so you couldn't do it.
he's like, woman author with Joanna? Can't have that. I'm trying to find it. Because it's something I think you would like. And she apparently I agreed to this. Here it is. The Passion According to GH by Clarice Lispector, Latin
Ooh, Clarice
American woman,
Lispector.
prose writer of the century. Cockroach changes a sculptor's life.
She's on my list for not that book, but I have The Hour of the Star on my list by her. She's like very
Nice.
surrealist author. Been wanting to read her for a long time. I think she's Brazilian, so
Yes,
I
she's
would
Brazilian.
consider switching my pick to that one.
Yeah, and I need to order this damn thing. I keep bringing it up and then not ordering it, which is completely unacceptable. This is supposedly a book that if you enjoyed Toad that you could very much enjoy, but I don't know if there's a one for one there, but it's literally like about a sculptor who sees a cockroach or something and then their whole life changes. Like it's very like surreal, like what you said.
Feels like a hot girl book. Feels very
Yeah.
hot girl. Ben
Yeah.
and I have been reading the short stories by Leonora Carrington, who is another like surrealist author.
That
Oh,
sounds familiar.
they're like the weirdest things. We're just like cracking up listening or reading these stories because they're just so bizarre and they make no sense, or they do, and we're just dumb and not literate enough to know what they mean.
She's
But yeah,
also a surrealist
surrealist.
painter.
She is. Yeah, her paintings are really cool. I think her
These
paintings
are
are
sick.
probably better than her writing. Um,
Dude, this is wild. Dude, her painting is all
Thank
like
you, Jose.
crazy, but also kind of awe inspiring.
Mhm.
Wow. Very cool. Very, very cool. There's so much out there still to discover. So cool.
Bye, Shad. Bye, Shad. Hi, Carlos, and or Yolanda.
Yolanda's asleep, probably. It's probably just Carlos.
Yeah. Brazilian
Jose's.
authors. Acada de Assis. Ooh.
Oh, I
Ooh,
have that.
yes. Posthumous Memoirs of Bras Cubas is so good. I know Murphy's like obsessed with that book, or was a couple years
She
ago, I
is the
think.
one that she recommended. She said, if I could recommend one book ever to you, I would recommend
Mhm.
that book right there. And I have it. I've
Yes.
actually read the first like probably 20 pages of it when I got it, and I really did like it. I thought it was pretty good.
Mhm.
So I will read that one day for sure.
Cool. Well, I think we should probably do some writing.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna be
And
editing.
or editing. Hey, Carlos is also editing.
I am definitely going to be doing some of the edits that Carlos recommended to me. He had
Ooh,
some
okay.
really good points. Unfortunately, it was after I'd already submitted the story for class,
Mhm.
but I still want to tighten this thing up before I start submitting it places. So,
Mhm.
got to do it.
Is Kev writing? Is Kai writing? I saw Kai in here. I don't know if he's still here, but um, Kev and Kai, I want to see some productivity.
Yeah, damn it.
The only editing Jimmy does anymore. Yeah,
Hey, hey.
now that he's taken advantage of free female
Almost.
labor in the form of his wife making all his graphics.
That's right. Hey, I'm just trying to fall in line over here. I don't want to attract any
I'm
attention.
just gonna read, but he's gonna stretch his fingers a tad. Do it. I'm
Would you
gonna.
say you're switching him a Tad Williams?
Ayo. Oh my god. I'm gonna try and. I don't think I'm gonna finish this chapter, but I'm gonna try and just do like the sprint, like a true sprint, where you just like don't care about what you're writing and you just write and you just don't
Mm.
stop and you go for like volume. I'm gonna try that because I haven't done that in a while and I've been like really being very particular about the words I've been putting down. And then I look up after this is like how I've gotten 1,000 words done over the last week. I write for like an hour and a half and I look and it's like 423 words. Like
But
this
they're
is
good words.
that's true. That's true. They required very little editing when I threw them on the manuscript, so that's good. But I try something different today, so I'm just gonna send it full send,
I love it.
all gas, no breaks.
Love it.
Okay. So what are we sprinting to? It's 10:25, so we will go, or 10:25 here anyway. We will go to 50.
That works for me.
Oh, I gotta get rid of my cute name. 51. Just
Beautiful.
okay. Okay. Well, do you listen to anything when you write? Just real quick.
I actually am going to this time because I'm editing, so I feel like I mean I'm gonna be focused, but like it's kind of more of like a free flowing, like stare at this thing kind of think. So yeah, I'm actually gonna be listening to some NBA YoungBoy as I, as I edit.
Okay, then. That is not. I should. That is the answer I should have expected, but for some reason I didn't. But I should have known. Okay. Well, see you in 25 minutes, and good luck. Have fun, everybody.
Good luck, have fun.
That's time.
And I was trying to find the window that entire time. Welcome back.
How'd it go?
It was good. It was really good. You know, you and I kind of talked about when I sent you what I was sending in is, you know, one of the problems was maybe a little bit too repetitive, stating some facts over again multiple times. Kind of coincided with the feedback Carlos and Yolanda had given me as well. So I
Mhm.
actually deleted a ton of dialogue in scene one. And you know, it's ironic. Remember whenever it was over 6 pages and I was like, how did someone ever be able to do this? This thing is barely 5 pages now. And it's a
Nice.
way better story. It's way better. And
Mhm.
Carlos is actually a big he actually thinks I should cut the entire first act. He thinks the first scene's useless. Well, I shouldn't say useless. He doesn't think it's necessary.
I could see that. I could agree with
Yeah.
that.
I
Mhm.
also changed my opening. Instead of it being like, well, I don't want to chop off the girl's head. Now it's why go through it with a Gus? You can pass this burden on. Elena slumped in the chair across from me. So you're kind of
Mhm.
jumping in the middle of the conversation, and it doesn't
Yeah.
become apparent that it's about a beheading until much later.
It's a good hook
So
too. Like, ooh, what's the burden?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
a simple question, right? Like,
Mhm.
why go through with it? Well, go through what, right?
Mhm.
I think it does enough to kind of get the reader in. But man, the dialogue just way more like punchy. There's still
Nice.
a little bit that I don't like of it.
Mhm.
You know, I would like it to be a little more back and forth, I guess, but there's only so much you can do, right? Whenever you have this kind of limit on it. And I don't think the dialogue is bad now. I actually quite like it. The redundancy we talked about completely gone, which is great. Um, but I do wish it was a little more ping pongy back and forth rather than like paragraph kind of deal, you know? So
Yeah.
that's the
I
next
feel
thing. I'm
like
gonna look.
if that's something you like, ooh, I think you would really like the book I'm reading now, Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison. There's so much just like the character voices are so good and there's so much just back and forth, like ping pong, like funny dialogue. It's incredible. Like I was kind of thinking about you when I was reading. I was like, the dialogue in this just like so good.
Yeah, and I'm a dialogue reader. I actually prefer to write dialogue and read dialogue.
um,
So
I would love Carlos to read if he hasn't already. I want to I want to see him read some David Foster Wallace. Um, I read a short story the other day. I was telling you about it. Good old
mhm.
Neon by DF Dub, and it was like I loved it, but it's like one of the most repetitive stories. And there's a reason for that. Like the narrator is extremely neurotic and like
Mhm.
OCD and just thought loops and regressions. It's really interesting. Carlos would hate it. He's a
I'm
dialogue
reading
cutter.
Number 9 Dream by Mitchell, and
Mhm.
he like has a restart point, and each time he restarts, it's like a roguelike. Each time he restarts, he gets a little further.
Mhm.
So weird. It's so weird. And he's like hallucinating. He's like daydreaming this stuff. Like, I'm gonna go in there and tell this lawyer what the fuck, you know, and it's just like, I don't know. It's a very weird book. Um,
Mm.
but man, the dialogue is really good. I mean, Mitchell always does really good dialogue and character voices, but
Right.
I think that's my next thing is like kind of going through this. I like a lot of what I have here, but I would like it to maybe be a little bit more back and forth. So I might try to piece it out a little bit and see how much of it can we go back and forth on. Though I'm not too concerned with it. Like I like the way it is right now. I would feel comfortable trying to submit this to places.
Mhm.
So, but we'll
Good.
see. We'll see. How about you?
Ooh, smashed it. Um,
Did you?
I got 509 words, and I think they're all really good, but also this is like one of my favorite things. It's like one of my favorite things to write right now, like what's happening. It's basically a drug trip. I don't want to say I was like extremely influenced by R. Scott Baker and Curie, but if you know, you know, just like snorting ashes and it loops you up a little bit. Um, but yeah, so I think that's where kind of things were really flowing for me. It's I love a good fever dream. I love a good drug trip. I don't the thing is I don't necessarily like reading them all that much because it feels so
Hmm.
like abstract, I guess, like reading someone's dreams. So I tried to strike a really good balance of like what's necessary, what feelings, and then tying them to the greater narrative. So, my story is like they're dealing with like an immortality substance. So what happens when you snort some immortality?
Mm.
And how does that feel? And because these girls are like they're just trying to go home, man. They don't want to deal with this stuff. They just want to go home. And they're in their conversation with this dinner they're having. And people are like, "You can't go home. I'm really sorry. You can't do it." They're like, "But we want to go home. We won't tell anybody." And they're like, "You will though. Like, you've had a taste of immortality." Here, I'll read you this paragraph I wrote. Basically, this immortality substance, if you don't take it for a while, which one of these girls just dealt with, she kind of just feels her skin like falling off. Like she feels the process of decay and aging so much harder because
Mm.
she no longer has like the knowledge that she's not doing it. So now that she knows she's aging, it's just like a mind fuck for her. Um, but they're just like begging and pleading, like, we just want to go home. We won't tell. Like, we don't need it. We're just gonna go home. And they say, so it's like the flesh of a god that they're eating that like makes them immortal. And
Wild.
you abandon these gods at your peril. Without their hands within your flesh, you weaken in viscera and reason both. You will obsess. You will beg for bones against your will. You will whore yourselves low for passage back to the darkness. You will start wars in the name of your need. And in your clawing for communion, the world will hear your cries, and they too will want the holy substrate for which a scholar and ambassador move such mountains. Do you not see? Have you not already felt?
I love it.
Like,
That's good
you can't go
stuff.
home. You can't go home, dude. Like, you're gonna freak out and you're gonna tell everybody. And they're like, we won't tell, we swear. And they're like, okay, well, can we just like take some home with us? And they're like, what do you think this is? Just like, here you go, bye. Like, no, you fucking idiots.
But so many
Um,
stories do that though.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, I'll let you live as long as you promise not to. And it's like the stakes are too high. You cannot let them go.
yeah, they're like,
Uh,
they're like, no. And all their only defense, the only thing that they have is like, we swear we won't tell anyone. That's all they have. Like, they have no leverage here. They're just like, please believe us. And they're like, are you dumb? Like, no. Um, and so they went through a whole thought process of thinking out like the benefits of like going home, which they can't do anyway, but they're like kind of talking themselves into being okay with staying as hostages like effectively forever, and how they kind of justify this to themselves. If I like writing anything, it's writing a hostage who comes to terms with their situation.
yeah, I'm seeing a
um
theme here. Is
and
Ben
yeah.
holding you hostage? Blink twice.
um yeah, so they're doing that, and then yeah, her whole like inner dialogue of like what's going to happen and how this is going to be okay, and then they do end up kind of taking this little communion, like the official like, oh, you guys are just eating like the gross bones of like the lesser gods. No, well, like try the good shit, like as a way to like, because in this society, once you have taken this in and you know about it, like it is like a human right to keep, like a human rights violation to keep it from you. Like if you know that this thing exists, even though we
Mm.
don't want you here, we cannot not keep giving it to you. It is like against our sacred religion. So even though you're prisoners and you shouldn't be here, now that you know, like we're going to welcome you with open arms. You can't go home, but you can stay here and we will provide for you and we'll give you everything. You just can't go home. Um, so they're like, here, have a taste of the good stuff and don't eat it. Fucking rail that bitch. Um, I use those exact words. Just kidding.
I love it.
Um,
I love it.
Yeah, so the ashes of the eldest flew up her nostrils, eager and winged. The darkness fled. Sunburst broke behind her closed eyelids. Her veins throbbed with him, but slowly, her heartbeat stretched to mark the beginnings and endings of eons. Her skin prickled. She felt her hair grow, her teeth shift, her nails thicken. Sora moaned beside her, a sound of infinite longing and acceptance. She felt her own throat vibrate and knew she too sang her gratitude to the god, to the sky from whence it came, to its mother, the stranger moon, to the telemarks and the tunnels and the exile and the assassin, to every circumstance that led her here, communing with eternity itself, leashed to forever in a raptured joining.
Bangers.
Ayo.
Love it. Absolutely
Thanks.
love it.
Quite happy
You
with
have
it,
such a good way
actually.
of saying things. Whereas I am like Hemingway and I'm like, she walked It's like
Hey,
so
C
brutal.
Spot C Spot Run is a like multi-million copy bestseller. So, and I think you're the one on the right track here.
About that. But I'm telling you, I think that the way that you write is very evocative. Like
Thank you.
you
It's all
you
that
need
China
to
Mieville in my brain.
that's probably it. That's probably it. I think that you should totally be working on the non-interesting part, which is like querying. I think that's a really good idea. Make Ben do
The
it for
problem
you if
the problem with querying Severed Echoes is that ain't nobody want to take on a non-standalone. So I think that's gonna hurt
I
a
think you'd be
lot.
surprised. I mean,
Mhm.
yes, in a general rule, like a general sense, but like there's always exceptions.
I'm
And I also
also, I don't know, I'm kind of happy being like this book, the one I'm working on now, is going to be queried. Like this is going to be, I'm
yeah, it's kind of what
going
I
for
meant. I meant
traditional on
more
this one.
so. Yeah, I meant more
Okay.
so with this one, especially
Yeah,
since
no,
you
I
have something under your belt now.
yeah, and I definitely will on this one. But I like the idea of being like a hybrid author, like do some self-publish, some traditional publish, capture all the
Mhm.
markets, do some self-marketing. I don't know. I like the idea. I think that could work really well in today's publishing
Do you
era.
feel any kind of draw to serialized publishing online or
No,
anything?
none.
Okay,
I don't know
I'm
why.
very I'm very intrigued by it myself.
I don't think that I have the consistency and like
It's fair.
uh, I don't know. Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
I wish. Like I know it's super popular, like especially like fan fiction and Wattpad, and people are always like hungry for that next installment. I used to be the same way when I was reading fan fiction back in like eighth grade. I was like always checking like where's the next one? Where's the next one? Because I would upload like chapter by chapter. So it's been a thing for a
Mhm.
long time, and I've really liked reading it that way. I just never thought about writing it that way.
Yeah, I feel like there's something to that form of publishing that is going to be very impactful in the near future. I don't know what it'll look like, but I actually do feel like shorter fiction and some sort of serialized content is probably I don't know what the combo is, but everything is shrinking, right?
I
Like
think
attention spans. We've heard it all before, but
I think Kindle Vella is shutting down because I had like not enough interest. So I don't know if there's like I know
hmm,
there's an author and author tuber that I watch a lot, Sarah Cannon, and she is doing something called like Ream, I think it is, which I'm pretty sure is like a serialized platform. And I think she's doing Kindle Vella, but like when I look at my Kindle my KDP dashboard, there was like a big notification for the last month that's like Kindle Vella is shutting down, and that was their serialized section. So I
interesting.
don't know if they're replacing it or if just it's not really a Kindle thing that people are looking for and they're going to other avenues. Side note, Carlos, if you can figure out what genre that I write in, I will
Weird
I'll like
fiction.
I'll I'll give you something valuable.
Weird fiction. I
Right.
yeah,
Is that a genre?
I guess I think it is. I don't think it's a one that you see in the stores, but I do
Yeah,
think
it's
that
like,
there's people who like, Clive Barker, China Mieville, like those people are pushed into
yeah,
weird.
yeah.
I
It's
think
like
Solenoid would fall into that almost.
fantasy-ish. Oh yeah, Solenoid's super weird. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, this book I'm writing now is fantasy-esque, fantasy adjacent.
Fantasy
Um,
adjacent.
I think of it more like science fiction because there's no really like magic. It's just a like well, there's that phrase. Any advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So really, fantasy is just really advanced sci-fi if you think about it.
Speculative fiction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
I
sure.
yeah, and you're probably right in the fact that like and also like to be clear, serial stories aren't new. Like you said, you were
Mhm.
reading them as fan like they've been around a long time. But I just think that there's something I'm also thinking more about like the next generation of readers, like not so much who's reading now, but like what's
Mhm.
next. And I just see it being some form of shorter, sharper things. Novels will always be around, right? I don't know. For some reason I want to take a gamble in saying that. But for me, I think my goal is I think I want to try to write 10 short stories this year and do them all in a manner that I feel like are something I can submit to competitions or magazines or whatever. And then
Mhm.
at the end of the year, try to put them together in a collection. I think that would be really neat. And I imagine a lot of it's going to have through lines of theme. Like they're not going to be connected stories per se,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, I mean
I don't know.
that's
Maybe,
that's
maybe.
one a month for the rest of the year. I think that's totally doable, especially if we keep this up. Then
Yes. I mean, also they don't have to be 5 pages long. They could be 1 page
yeah.
long. I would really like to kind of experiment with tense and I guess genre. But it's funny. Carlos was like, "Your story, is it fantasy or a world, or is it in the future? Is it in the past?" I'm like, "I don't really know. I don't know if I don't know if I put too much thought in it." I mean, the general sense was that it was a post-apocalyptic, back to dark age times, which would
Mhm.
become way more apparent if I had written this the way I did, because I actually have a novel idea for this, like to expand it out.
Mhm.
It would require a lot more time to do
Right.
so, but the evidence would be there'd be hints at this being a post-apocalyptic type world. But that I guess genre isn't something I've really thought about, which is odd considering that I love fantasy so much. But
Maybe it's because we love so many genres that we find it hard to stick to one. Like I love so many genres and I don't want to feel boxed in. Like you're writing a fantasy story, there can't be XYZ in it. Like or
yeah.
primarily a fantasy story. Like yeah, there's subgenres and things like that, but my influences and inspirations are so all over the place and I can't even when I try to stick to one genre. Like, you're writing a romance. Just kidding, now it's a horror novel. Just can't do it.
I mean,
Um,
there's so
and I feel
many
like
cool
the
things
story
to take
wouldn't
from
be
all
as
the
good if I
genres.
tried that. Yes.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's why I like Ishiguro so much is when he comments on he's like, I literally don't think about genres. Like I don't think it's a part of my process. I don't think it's part of the writing, which is ironic because when he wrote Buried Giant, he made a comment like, will my contemporaries, meaning like his peers who have allotted him for literary fiction, he said, will they look down
Mhm.
on me and say this is just fantasy? And he got slammed by Le Guin for it. And Le Guin went off. But he wasn't saying that it like, is it trash? Like he wasn't saying, will they think it's trash fantasy? He wasn't saying that. He was saying, will my colleagues be so snobbish to call it just fantasy? As in, like they're in the wrong. And I thought it was like super embarrassing that she went on this big tirade and like panned the book. And it's like, you totally misrepresented what he meant. Like, cause I heard it. I was disappointed. I'm like, oh, that sucks. He's a snob. But then I like actually read the interview and I'm like, he didn't say that. Like, he didn't say anything disparaging. I agree with him.
Yeah.
Genres, when you're writing, I mean, your goals matter, but like for just someone who wants to write, like just go, just forget genre, write the story you want to write, and whatever it
Yeah.
ends up being in is great. Now, that's not probably the most marketable advice in the world,
That's what
right?
I'm, yeah, that's where my issue lies. I don't care. Like, I love genres. I don't think there's any genre that's better than another genre. For
Yeah.
me, it's all about like, who do I pitch this to? Who do I give this to and say, this is up your alley? And they're like, why would you think that? Oh, because there's this in it. And like, yeah, amidst all this other stuff. So that's the only reason I feel like I should kind of narrow it in a bit. I think of
Yeah.
everything, this is the one I'm working on now is probably the most like coherently one genre thing. And I feel like it's
Hmm.
a fantasy novel. Still don't really see it as a fantasy novel because I don't really think there's any magic in it. But it's a full secondary world. If anything, it's like a secondary world science fiction. But
So the Neil
that's not a
Stevenson
genre.
kind of deal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's not like
Hmm.
yeah, it's like anatomy. Um, yeah. But then who am I to be like, "Hello, Neil Stephenson's agent. I'm Amanda. Got this book over here." Also that's just imposter syndrome, just feeling like ridiculous about coming to these professional people and being like, "I wrote this in my pajamas at 2 in the morning. Here, read it and sell it to people." Like it just feels not correct. I know
I
that's
think
false, but
I think that's most people though. I think a lot of authors who have made millions of dollars wrote in their boxers. Like I think that's definitely possible.
it's
Mm.
sexy. Yeah, Jose, I would agree with this. I felt the same way until quite recently, and then I read the Kashiel series, and I was like, oh
Yeah,
hell
there's
yeah,
just so much out there, but like this, so
yeah,
this
there's
is
so much.
something though. Whenever you're reading hundreds of books, you know, into the eventually into the thousands of a genre, is that
Mhm.
you are going to undoubtedly find less and less that you probably click with. But what's frustrating is then people will jump. You know, I read other things other than fantasy, and then people are like, "Well, it seems like you like literary fiction more than fantasy." It's like, well, no, I just haven't read enough of literary fiction. I'm reading like the best, right? I'm reading like the best of the best, or at least what's most recommended. So
Mhm.
of course, it looks lopsided because when I got into back into fantasy, I read all of the most recommended fantasy, and most of it I really loved. So,
Mhm.
you know, it's just there's a lot of there's just a lot of junk out there, and no matter what the genre is, like there is just junk or mid. Like there's a lot of mid, and
Mhm.
you need those mid books to have exceptional ones
And
that fit
I
you.
appreciate there's people that love mid books. Like on
Mhm.
TikTok and Book Talk, I'm always seeing like there'll be like a critical review of a book or something. There's always commenters that are like, "Oh, this book was bad. Like I love this book. I gave everything I read this year 5 stars. I love everything. Like you write it, I love it. I don't care." And so and
Awesome.
it's not like they're like I wish, but
Be
it's not like
sick.
they're reading it wrong or they're dumb or anything. Like they just have a different perspective of reading, I guess, which is
And they,
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
they
I
go
wish I had
into the
that.
book and they want something from that book, whatever it is, and they found it,
Yeah,
right?
but they're
That's
just
really
shocked
cool.
shocked anytime that there's like a negative review. They're like, "Oh, I thought it was amazing," and it's just like the most mid thing you've ever seen. Which good for them. You know what? Yeah, there is so much inspiration to be had from reading a shit book. It's so true. But also, man, I don't like reading shit books. I'm sorry. I wish I could like shit books. I just can't. Can't do it. I will if the second that thing smells like a 3 star, I'm dropping it. I'm trying to do less of this year, but I'm also trying to be a lot more intentional, like I said earlier, with like what
Mhm.
I'm reading. And there's the whole like, oh, 5 star strumpet. You just give everything 5 stars. Yeah, because I am so selective that I will pick like I know this is up my alley. I know I like this author. I read the
Mhm.
sample and I really like the writing. I people that I trust have said that I would like it, and that's why I only read 4 and 5 stars because I
Yeah.
don't give things chances, and then when I do, Lord of Light, I'm like next.
I
So
feel like, for me, I don't rate DNFs because I didn't finish
same,
them, but
same.
I feel like I need to, like, finish more of the books I dislike so that I can, like, balance myself out. Because I was like, I never use the negative side of my scale, you know, I have mostly negative, negative, very negative, overwhelmingly negative, and there's a book
Mhm.
last month I absolutely would have put into the negative, like, probably mostly to very negative, somewhere around there, but I couldn't because I didn't finish it, and I'm like, I should have, you know, damn. But I value my reading time more than I do impressing someone with like the range of my ratings. Who gives a shit? You know, like
Right.
I just want to read good books. I'm not here to be a critic.
Yeah. I mean, I love like rant review channels. Like I love Reads with Rachel, and she's just always reading books that she knows she's not gonna like, and then she'll do 6 hour long just eviscerations of these books. And I thank her for her sacrifice because I love listening to them. I'll just put them on in the background and I'll just listen and I'll just giggle along with it, even though I have no interest in the book whatsoever. But like, I simply could not. I like, it feels like most of the people that are doing like that kind of content, like they're reading 80 things that they don't like. And I couldn't do it. I could not do it. I could not do it for the content.
Yeah,
But
there's an aspect that
I'm
feels
glad they do.
performative. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I I don't know.
And it's entertaining, but to
Oh,
me,
definitely.
I'm a hater at heart, so um,
I'm a
I'm just
hater at heart.
I'm I'm a hater with like no patience to do my own hating. So I just like to form an opinion, like you know what, I've decided that I hate this thing. Let's let's feed that loop back, and look for other people who hate this thing. And then I can feel super well informed because I watched a 6-hour video of someone else who hated it, and now all of her opinions are now my opinions, and that book sucks.
I feel like every time I really love or hate something, I end up going the opposite end to see the other end, and then I just end up feeling very conflicted, and then I just stop having an opinion on it totally. And I'm like, what do I know? Life is subjective. Reality is not real. And then I take an edible and fall asleep. It's kind of my cycle.
Gotta protect your peace.
Yes.
Understandable. Yeah. Now my like average rating this year, I think I have it right here. Oh man, you know the book that brought my rating down hard, but my average rating this year is a 4.3.
That's awesome.
With out of 10 books completed and 5,380 pages read.
That's awesome.
That'd be like a 4.8, except for Pale View of Hills.
Rip.
Bad.
Ripperino.
Which I just couldn't DNF because it was like less than 200 pages, and I was reading it to Ben, and we both had to know. But I will give you, the more I think about that book, the more I'm like, am I wrong?
Was he cooking?
Is that a really good book? No.
When I finished it, I was like, that was pretty good. And then the longer I went on with it, the more I've liked it. But I also very much like those type of stories. Like that's definitely the type of story that I'm drawn to as far as like what is actually happening kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
But also it's pretty evident it's his debut comparatively like to his other stuff, I think.
Oh, so that's an interesting question. Like, do you like what's more important to you? Like enjoyment in the moment of reading something and like being entertained and feeling like your time is being well spent because you're having a really good experience while reading the book? Or like the post-book clarity of like thinking about it and talking about it and like mulling it over and figuring out the author's intentions and how does it relate to you? Like what do you value more?
It's a hard balance. I don't know if I have an answer, but what I can tell you is that there are books that I love discussing and have thought about a lot that I actually don't like all that much. Brandon Sanderson books come to mind. I actually really enjoy talking, not with like the generic, like, you know, Sanderson, like that's fine. I don't care. But like, I really enjoy.
You just love arguing on Twitter about the woke Brando Sando.
Oh my God. I couldn't imagine wasting my time in a worse way. I would rather watch my grandfather go through dementia again than do that ever. But like, for instance, you know, Christian's a big Sanderson fan, and I love deconstructing the story with him and like trying to figure out why we don't like it as much. Like, I actually think that that's like a really fun thing, but I don't like really love the book all that much. So it's hard. It's hard to say. I don't know if it makes the book quote unquote better. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily tied to the idea of like raising it as a rating, but it can be memorable. I think any book that is memorable is probably worth praising in some facet.
Right. Because yeah, I like definitely Pale View of Hills for me is one that like I did not have a good time reading that book at all. And but afterwards I was like, I feel like I could talk about this book for hours with somebody.
You know, and that is kind of cool because it could at least, you could be like, I didn't necessarily like love what I got out of the book, but I don't regret reading it, maybe is like the way of putting it. It's like, like there's books I regret finishing for sure.
And that you never want to talk about again. You're not going to think about it again. They had no deeper impact on the way you think about things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Real, Jose, because my original plan for the channel was to be a Sanderson critic. My first video is tier ranking all of the Cosmere books that I have not read. And now everybody and their mother is Sanderson critic. And that's why nobody watches my channel anymore, because everybody else is doing it better than me.
Yeah, there's the balance is off right now. You know, it was on the other side, now it's over here, and it's just like so much noise that it's like, you know, it's not fun to talk about.
Now you're a Sanderson critic, and they're like, oh, like another
He's one of us. Like, no, I'm not. Leave me alone. I like Warbreaker. Leave me alone. Jose, you should watch your tier ranking video. It's great.
It's a good video. Still has the most views on this channel. It's like the only one.
I love it.
I got like all the followers I have or out of all the followers I have, like 90% of them came from that video. And then they just stayed for reasons,
You're
I guess.
ranking the Cosmere. I've never read Brandon's.
God, I thought I cooked so hard when I made that video. I was so excited.
did.
And then
You
I
did.
and then I disappeared.
I still think about your spring strangeness video constantly.
Do you?
Yeah, about dead things under the ice
Thanks.
thawing out. Every time I see
Oh, hell
thawing
yeah.
out snow, I'm like, is there going to be a body?
Probably somewhere.
Definitely.
Yeah. Do you want to sprint again?
Yeah, let's do one more. And then I'm
Okay.
going to put a heat pad on my back.
Okay. We'll go to like 50-ish, and then we'll chat for do a little 10-minute debrief, and then let you go be a old broken boomer.
Boomer. Yes. See if we can get this dialogue polished.
Yes, make it sing. We need Carlos to run like a we need Carlos on one of these sprints one of these days to like give us a dialogue masterclass.
He's done a lot of script writing and stuff. Like he has a lot of experience in this and
Yes.
with school and stuff. And you
And
know,
short stories. The one that I read, like with the little Dublin, or is it might have been Dublin, but there's like a whole scene with a seagull and like a chips bag, and it's so good. The dialogue in that scene is so funny and just flies off the page. So yeah, we need Carlos to okay. Carlos, if
Carlos,
you're awake around this time, like next week or the week after, we sign
we're
you
gonna
up.
need you on.
We need you on.
We do.
I'll send you an invite for let me know. Oh, just message me. Let me know if you want to do something like next week or the week after. Yeah, so am I gonna finish this chapter today?
You are.
That'd be
I'm
crazy.
manifesting. You're gonna do
I
it.
think I am. I think
Mhm.
you know what? No, you know what? I think this chapter's done. Is it done?
Now you get to come up with a new chapter title. That's fun.
Candle flames swam in the tear pools of her eyes. Telemarks sat, patient by nature, with all the time in the world. The room spun. She held onto the edge of the table for purchase in the maelstrom. The bonds on her wrists were infinity knots, mesmerizing loops, and she laughed at the obvious symbolism. The trap, the Ouroboros. It's like a chapter ender.
Yeah, it's a banger.
Ah, chapter's done. Sick. Moving on.
Now you can just shop online for this whole sprint.
Now, gonna write some little 12-year-old king in his little castle ruins.
Beautiful.
Perspective switch. That was a good spot to like end that POV for a minute, I think. Ooh, this one's gonna be fun. This is gonna be like shoots and ladders, disgusting castle edition.
I'm excited.
Okay, I see you in 25.
Sounds good. Good luck. Have fun.
Bye. Have fun, everyone. And that's time. Hello.
Howdy.
Howdy.
You know, I did some editing. It came out well. I was pretty happy with it. I looked up
Mhm.
Reedsy's short story submission, and I didn't realize it's prompt driven.
Yes.
I
Usually,
want
though,
to
the prompts are like just loosey goosey enough to like get away with
just
it.
something
You
that
can like
has
find a way.
nothing.
No, not so much nothing, but like usually the prompts are so like open that you can like even if you have
Make
to
it
wait a
fit.
week or two, like yeah, there's a way that it can fit. Like the one that I wrote was like that science fictiony story about the guy who runs someone over. And
Hmm.
the prompt was like aliens, something to do with aliens. And I was like, I can do that. And it just happened to be like the right week for me to turn that in, even though it's not really like alien oriented. They just are there. So yeah, it's you can usually, even if you just tweak it a little bit, you can make it happen. And I think their limit is like 3,000 words.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw
So
that. I looked at a bunch of different places, like the Atlantic takes stuff, and then there's a bunch of like magazines I had never heard of. Ironically, a lot of magazines are like no elements of sci-fi, horror, fantasy, or romance. I'm like,
boring.
eat shit.
Seriously.
I
Hello,
uh
Ben.
I
Hello, Benjamin.
Hey Ben, I also looked at Grimdark magazine because obviously it's a pretty dark story, and I'm
Ooh.
like, maybe this would work, but I don't know. We'll
Mhm.
see. I got to look around and figure out what I should do as far as like trying to see if anyone wants to read this thing. But I'm very happy with the changes I've made. Um,
Good.
how did your shoots and ladders go?
Pretty good. How many words did I get? I got 308 words, which makes sense. It's a little slower because it's like the beginning of a chapter, so I have to like totally just 180 to another POV, another um like tense and perspective, another setting. Um, whereas those girls are like eating god bones and being weird. This guy's just like, I'm studying tides. How do tides work? Tides come from God, and you can't know God, so you can't predict tides. But whoever
Magnets.
knows
How's
the
that shit
tides,
work?
whoever knows the tides, knows the future. So he's like just learning, and he's like, dang it, now I gotta learn mathematics and geometry. Gotta learn all this stuff. And he's like, okay, so let me just give you a little hint of where this is going. Here's the Google search that I typed in, and tell me how shocked you are that I did not find a response. Can an electric eel electrify the water and kill you like a toaster in a bathtub?
Okay.
Can it? Like,
Good
they're
question.
in the water and they're electric. So if you swim in a pool with an electric eel and it goes, bzz, is that like a toaster in a bathtub? Can you die? Tell me in the
I feel like
comments.
it's probably a no because of the voltage it puts off, but I don't know for a fact.
Okay. So what if there's like 10,000 eels
No, that
and they
might be a
all
problem.
go off at once?
I've never thought about this.
Same.
Yeah, I feel like I need to watch a documentary on electric eels now. Like
I don't
that's
know
kind of
why my
crazy
very
they
stupid
exist.
Google search didn't give me an answer. Yeah.
You've asked a question that seems obvious to ask that no one's ever
It's
asked.
yeah, now people are just like, oh, toasters in a bathtub. I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I need to know if this is like a toaster in a bathtub. Like, if I
Because it says it's a
swam,
chemical shock, not an electromagnetic shock.
oh, well, shit.
Well, that's not. Well, hey, you're in a fantasy world. You can do whatever you want.
You know what? That's a great point. I forgot that I can make stuff up.
Don't make them eels. Make them like dolphins.
See, I need them to be small. Maybe they're like electric fish.
Seahorses.
Oh, I love it. I actually love that. Oh, it's going in the book.
There you go. See, we did it. We got there.
Right, I gotta write seahorses in this thing real quick.
Seahorses are dope.
Maybe
They're
he
so
thinks
cool.
about eels, and he like tries to test the eels, and it doesn't work.
I like that. I can
And
get
then he's
behind
like,
that.
"Oh, but these seahorses, though." Also, seahorses are just like A, awesome, and B, weird and creepy.
Oh yeah.
Why are seahorses so underutilized as like
I don't know. They're so cool looking though.
fantasy? I'm so yeah, part of my like world building on this is like animals and flora and fauna in the different areas. And seahorses just never even crossed my mind, which is a shame.
Yeah, I would say seahorses are very underused. I would also say polar bears. I know, Polar Express. There's some stuff out there, but not enough. Polar bears are
The wa
ferocious.
the water is disgusting, Benjamin. So I don't know if that is good or bad. Like, is the water supposed to be pure to like be able to conduct electricity, or if there's like a mineral in the water, is this mineral more conductive? Like, what's better? Can eels shock each other? You would think no, right?
The answer is
I don't
yes.
know.
I googled it.
Oh,
Actually.
mild
They
surprise.
can. So I did not know that. I learned something new today.
Well, I've got some thinking to do.
I really love the idea of electric seahorses though. Like that has to come to fruition somehow.
Oh, it's gonna. We're about to take a little tour of some like flooded tide pools,
Okay.
and I think he's gonna like. I think he's heard a rumor of these seahorses, and he's like, I gotta find out if these things are real because I could use that. And oh, that'd be so sick. What if he like breeds like millions of these electric seahorses and then just like dumps them in some nasty water, and it is just effectively like dropping a nuke.
That would be sick.
That's happening. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, you're spoiling everything for me.
Unfortunately, I have a polar bear in this book too.
I hope you're paying Pullman his fees.
I'm getting so sued. It's okay though. It's not like a real. It's not a cool polar bear. Like what's his name? Iorek. Iorek. I hate that polar bear's name. Um, Yorick. It's like a gross polar bear, like fallen apart and made out of rocks.
Yeah, polar bears are usually pretty nasty. They're also killers. I mean, absolute killers. They will
I
chase
have this
you. They will swim.
I have this whole idea of this like massive stone polar bear, like, and it's like a polar bear, like freakish Cronenberg polar bear that's like made up of every essence of polar bear, but in like duplicate fractals, and it's just massive, and it like wakes up and it's just like chasing you through the darkness, and it's like a really treacherous terrain, and these people can't see anything, so but there's like a lightning storm going on, so like every time the lightning goes off, that's the only time they can see to like make their next move. And so they're just like running in time with the lightning and like jumping over obstacles, and it's polar bears just it's supposed to
I
be
like
sick.
it.
Like later on when things like are rolling, I'm just gonna be like, and then all the seahorses were like a nuke, and then the rock polar bear like ran at that. It's gonna be crazy.
You have so many good ideas. I love it.
You are the one who gave me the seahorses, so you have so many.
That is true. That
I
is
was
true.
gonna
I'm
go
the
with
ideas guy.
eels, lame ass eels. Cares about
Seahorses.
eels, seahorses. Hell yeah.
Think of the plushies you can sell once
Are they
it
are
pops
they
off.
are they called seahorses in this book? Because so far, I don't think this book even has regular horses.
All right, let's take a gander. So they're usually actually called a hippocampus.
Like a brain?
The seahorse's scientific genus name, hippocampus, is Greek for bent horse.
Weird.
Yeah, their bodies are covered with bony ridges and rings.
It's actually so perfect. Oh my god, this works so well for the story too,
Oh
because
my
like the
God.
creatures have to be like weird and bony and like nasty and like Oh, perfect.
So
I'm in your-
hippocampus also
I'm in your
refers
debt.
to a mythological beast with the head of a horse and the tail of a fish.
So I don't have horses in this book. I have like oxen. The mode of
There you go.
transportation for these people are like massive beetles. They like have a carriage that's pulled by like thousands of these like head-sized beetles. And they have like the beetles are drawn to like a scent, and so they steer it. There's like this thing that like a fishing rod that goes over the carriage and emits like an incense, and then they can like push it wherever they want it to go, and the
That's
beetles will
wild.
follow it.
Well, that's cool though, because if you have seahorses, it's like I actually like that kind of. I mean, you don't have to call them seahorses. You might need to come up with a different name, but you should
That's what I'm
describe
saying.
them. Yeah, you should describe it like
Yeah,
a seahorse.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. Like it's gonna say seahorse, and everyone reading is it's gonna be one of those like anachronisms that they're like, how do these people know what a horse is? Like there've been no horses in this book.
What do they know?
Exactly.
They don't
Maybe
know
he
anything.
sees like a diagram of a horse and he's like, what is that? And then he sees a seahorse and he's like, oh my God, but what is that? Blowing this kid's mind. He's gonna be like, I could use these as a weapon. Look how creepy they are. And then he goes and looks and they're like this big. He's like imagining this like man-sized, like bony, armored, bent horse. He's like, I'm
It
gonna
is
ride
not at
one of
all.
those babies, and it's just this big, and it's little. It's like it's little electric charge. He's like, okay,
I
I'm gonna
love
need a lot
that.
more. I need a lot more of these, and then he has to breed them, and then the whole like underbelly of this castle just turns into seahorse breeding ground, and he's just like fighting off seahorses. Hell yeah, let's go. All right,
I
my
love it.
inspiration just skyrocketed for this book.
Keep writing. Keep writing.
No, I'm starving, and I'm gonna go get some food. This has been super fun. This was a very productive one for me.
Yeah, it was good for me, kind of polishing off the story, and now trying to figure out what I want to do. You know, one question I don't actually have the answer to is I
Mm.
really want to use a pen name, and I don't want it to
Mhm.
people to know it's me. But like when I submit, do I submit it with my actual name? You know what I mean? Like I don't know how that works.
I would
Um,
just submit it with your actual name and be like is whatever. I'm sure they see that all the time. Or
yeah.
like or
Yeah.
you could just make a like an email address of your pen name and send everything from there. Like I have an Anya Dillon email address that I send.
I guess I'd be worried if they did end up paying. Like, would they need tax information and shit? You know what I mean? Like,
Probably. And then at that time you just be like, yeah, here's my real name.
okay, I like that. I
Yeah,
like
because I'm
that.
sure I'm sure so many people do that.
They also wanted a bio, and I'm like,
I
uh, what do I say in a bio? You know what I mean? Like,
do you want to mention wrestling?
not really. Not
Penny
really.
started his storytelling career in the most
That's the thing.
unlikely of
If I use my real
places,
name, it's
the
easier to do the
wrestling
bio.
ring.
Yeah, I could be like, I'm a YouTuber slash former pro wrestler, and like probably helps my submission, honestly. Um, though I, maybe secretly there's authors that work with them that hate me. Who knows? Could be interesting.
Doubt it.
I don't know.
You have all these connections. You know Steven Erickson. You know Tad Williams. What you should be doing is be like, hey, so
Could you
make
imagine?
me a nepo baby. Actually, no, it's just like
Tad, give me the hookup.
that's just networking, Jimmy. You're just networking. It's all who you know. So you totally, yeah, just be like, hey, Tad, I got this friend, Amanda. She wrote this book about a million electric seahorses turning into a nuke.
I think you should
And you
really
should,
give it a go.
I'm gonna just need you to put the word out. Be like, hey, AP, you know a guy,
Hey,
don't you? Hey, Skippin, don't you know all the people?
Skippin does know a lot of people. He does know
Oh
a
yeah,
lot of people, actually.
yeah. Yeah. Hey, Connie, get me in contact with Connie Willis.
She seems wonderful.
I'm not above begging my people for network connections.
I love it.
How are you feeling? Are you about to go?
My back hurts
Go.
pretty bad. This chair
Okay.
doesn't have as much lumbar support as my other one. So, but
Yeah.
it was
Okay.
good to sit up vertically for a bit.
That's good. You gonna go read?
Yeah, I think so.
Me too. I'm gonna order some Australian version of Burger King. Gonna get an Impossible Whopper and read
nice.
Song of Solomon. Yeah,
Hell yeah. That sounds like
hell
a good
yeah.
day.
It's gonna be great. So yeah, thanks for hanging out with me. We're doing this with some consistency. That's really good for us in our writing practice, I think.
It
So
is.
we should
Very
keep it
good.
up. I will see about Carlos joining us for a future one. And pretty soon you'll be working on a new short story. And then we get to traumatize everyone in a whole new way.
Yes, I already have plenty of ideas, so I'm excited.
Perfect. Cool. Well, yeah, thanks for hanging out with us, everyone in the chat. Glad to see some people got some writing done. Let's go harass Kev after this and see what he wrote, see what Kai wrote, and we will all see y'all soon, probably in a chat. But yeah, otherwise, thanks for hanging out and be good, be safe, and remember to always keep writing the next page.
Boom. You did it so
Bye,
well.
everyone. Till next time.